So, have you ever heard of a guy who lived two completely different lives? I mean, polar opposites. One as a feared New York gangster, nicknamed the Killer, and the other as a respected, quiet gentleman in a small Arkansas town. How does somebody even make that jump? Well, to figure it out, we've got to dive into the incredible story of Owney Madden. You know, maybe his one-time girlfriend, the famous actress Mae West, said it best. She called him sweet, but oh so vicious. And wow, does that one line just nail it? It perfectly captures the whole puzzle of Owney Madden. He had this charm, but underneath, pure brutality. Let's see how both sides of that coin shaped his unbelievable life. All right, so where did that vicious part come from? To really get who this guy was, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. His story doesn't start in some criminal empire. Nope. It starts in poverty and gets forged on the absolutely brutal streets of New York's Hell's Kitchen. And his path into crime? It was lightning fast. He was born in England, but ends up in Hell's Kitchen after a spell in an orphanage. It did not take him long at all to get mixed up with the local gangs. And by his late teens, he was already the leader of one of the most violent crews around, the Gophers. This whole crazy rise comes to a head just a few years later, in 1915, when he lands in prison for murder.
So what was the turning point? What made him choose this life? Well, the story goes it all started with one violent act that landed him $500. Now, I know, that might not sound like a ton of money today, but back then, that was a fortune. For a poor kid, that one score was all the proof he needed, that crime was the fastest way to the top.
And he got arrogant with that power, and fast. There's this famous story where he shoots a guy right on the street. But instead of running, he just tells the crowd, "Get the police, I'm Owney Madden 10th Street." He just knew nobody would dare testify against him. He was totally untouchable. His reputation for being tough was the stuff of legend, and this number right here proves it. During a turf war, he walks right into a rival gang's club, and a massive gunfight breaks out. He gets shot 6 times and lives. But here's the crucial part. When the police show up and ask him who did it, he refuses to snitch. That move cemented his status as a hardcore gangster who lived by the code. So, Madden gets out of prison, and he steps into a brand new world, Prohibition. I mean, for a guy with his particular set of skills, this was like hitting the lottery. He took all that old ruthlessness, but started channeling it into a more sophisticated kind of empire. We're talking illegal booze, high-stakes boxing, and world-class entertainment. And the crown jewel of this new empire was the Cotton Club. He took this rundown joint in Harlem and turned it into one of the most famous night spots in the world. Just think about that contradiction for a second. A violent, ruthless bootlegger was also the guy providing the stage for the absolute legends of the Harlem Renaissance, everyone from Duke Ellington to Ella Fitzgerald. It's wild. But his ambition didn't just stop with nightclubs. Oh no, he got deep into professional boxing, promoting some of the biggest fighters of the era. And of course, he brought his underworld tactics with him, becoming notorious for rigging major fights to make sure he always got a big payday. But here's the thing. While Madden was at the absolute top of his game, the ground was literally shifting under his feet. The old-school Irish gangs that he came up with, they were being systematically pushed out by the newer, more organized, and frankly, more powerful Italian mafia. And this, right here, is what really set Madden apart. He wasn't just a thug, he was smart. He was a strategist. He could see the writing on the wall. His time in New York was coming to an end. So instead of waiting around to get killed or muscled out, he made a calculated move to cash in his chips and leave on his own terms. Okay, now this is where the story takes its most fascinating turn. Where does one of New York's most infamous gangsters go to retire? Not Miami, not LA, but a small resort town called Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's here that he starts his second act, building a totally new and much, much quieter kingdom. So, why Hot Springs? Well, because it was pretty much the perfect place for a guy like him. It was what they called an open town. Officially, it was run by a mayor, but unofficially, the whole place was run by a corrupt machine that welcomed illegal business. It was a town where gangsters weren't just tolerated, they were protected by the cops. It was a genuine safe haven. And he didn't just move there to lay low. He had a brilliant business plan. Step 1, partner up with the corrupt mayor. Step 2, take over the town's most profitable rockets, like the horse race wire service. That thing was a cash cow, sending race results to bookies everywhere. He took over the clubs, the gambling, and basically turned the entire town into his own personal and very safe enterprise. With Madden running the show, Hot Springs became the unofficial vacation spot for the mob. I mean, the biggest names in organized crime, Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, even Al Capone, they all came to visit. They could just kick back, gamble, plan their next moves, all under the quiet protection of Owney's new empire.
So now he's built two empires, one loud and violent in New York, the other quiet and corrupt in Arkansas. And with that, Owney Madden enters the final chapter of his life. And believe me, it was a chapter that almost no one from his old days in Hell's Kitchen would have ever seen coming.
The transformation was just total. The New York Owney was flashy, violent, known everywhere as the killer. But the Hot Springs Owney, he was the complete opposite. Low profile, strategic, and known around town as a respectable local gentleman. He had successfully and completely shed his old skin. I mean, just let this timeline sink in. For 30 years, from 1935 all the way to 1965, he lived a quiet, pretty normal life in Hot Springs. He got married, became a US citizen, and just blended in. It's such a massive contrast to the violent chaos of his youth.
And here is the ultimate irony of his life. Owney, the killer Madden, didn't die in a gutter. He didn't die in a gangland hit. He died peacefully of natural causes at the age of 73. He's buried right next to his wife in a local cemetery, and to this day, a lot of people in Hot Springs don't remember him as a gangster, but as a guy who brought a lot of money and prosperity to their town.
So, that leaves us with this one big, fascinating question. Madden got his peaceful, respected ending, but can 30 years of being a gentleman really wash away all the blood and violence from the years he spent as the killer? His story really makes you think about what a legacy is, and whether a person can ever truly outrun their past.